What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Life After Strange right here on Player One versus the World. And we are once again delving into the motion capture side, but specifically for Life is Strange Before Storm. I have the privilege of welcoming on Megan Elisabeth Kelly, who did motion capture for Victoria Chase, Steph Gingrich, Samantha Myers, Taylor, who was unfortunately cut from the game, Max in Farewell, and I imagine some other characters I have no idea for, but Megan is here. Megan, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm just dealing with COVID as everyone else is. And
right.
Yeah, I kind of had to.
Crazy stuff.
Exactly. And I'm hoping for a better 2021. But very happy I'm doing my show. I've got you on, so I'm in a good place. So it could be worse. That's the main thing. So
yeah, it's grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming on. I'm really excited to talk to you. And before we go into Before the Storm, I know everyone wants to talk about that, but we're going to talk about you specifically, because with my actors that I bring on this show, I always do digging into who they are, like how did they get into acting. I think you've got a fascinating story into acting. So for my audience, people who don't know, how did you get into acting?
Well, it's always kind of pulled me from a young age. Just always something that I've always wanted to do. So I started in school theater. And then when I was about 15, I realized I really wanted to pursue film. And I didn't really know how to do that because my parents aren't in the industry or anything. So I had to navigate that all by myself, which was tricky. Still learning. But yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled that I've been able to have the opportunities I've had. I think it's been awesome. It's definitely confirmed that this is what I want to do. Even on the motion capture side, it's just been a wild experience. Oh, sorry. House phone, you know, I always get spam calls randomly.
Mm-hmm. No, so that's really interesting to hear that. And I think one of the things I like to hear about your acting career is that you're also a singer-songwriter, and actors who I've brought on this series have got that background as well of being a singer-songwriter. And just like, you know, you developed them at an early age when I read through your bio. How important is it now looking back and having those skills and now pursuing a film career in the industry?
It's interesting because it definitely gives you an edge, I think, with certain roles. You know, having a musical background, you know, you can sometimes some opportunities will need, you know, someone who plays the piano, the drums, or someone who sings, stuff like that. So I haven't seen those opportunities really come yet, but I am looking forward to that. I obviously love music. That's my other passion. I think acting is number one, but you know, in my free time, I'm a drummer and I'm a pianist and I sing. So yeah, I love to do that on the side, but I'd love to see that be incorporated into my acting career at some point.
Oh, absolutely. And you're still very young as well, much younger than me. So I've no doubt you'll have more roles and opportunities with that. And actually, before we jump onto that, you know, you speak so passionately about music. Who would be your favorite musician or like influences, inspirations?
It's really funny because I absolutely love alternative rock, and I'd love to like go into that as like a female. Some of my favorite artists, I love the Temples. I love Two Door Cinema Club, Cage the Elephant. Who else? Yeah, I have like a whole list, but any sort of alternative rock, I probably listen to it and I love it. It's on my playlist somewhere.
Oh, nice. Actually, before we go on to anything else, Before the Storm soundtrack, did you listen to it?
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love Daughter. Definitely one of my favorite artists.
Yeah. They hooked me so much when I heard Before the Storm soundtrack, and I listened to Daughter almost every single day.
It's
so like,
amazing. Yeah.
Any favorite tracks from Daughter?
I loved Number, the one they used for the opening for Before the Storm. I was like, yes, it just felt right when it was playing. I mean, I just did the motion capture, but I was like, oh, I got like chills. I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening.
Oh, amazing, and very good choice. That is my favorite song from Daughter, so this is all going very well for this interview.
Good.
And we're talking about Before the Storm, so how did you end up getting involved with Before the Storm on mocap? Because I don't know how the audition process goes for. Like, what was it like? How did you get in this project?
It's interesting. I actually had an acting coach reach out to me, and he said, hey, Megan, you should look into submitting for this. I didn't hear it through my agent here in Colorado, so I submitted independently, and I didn't know what it was. I just saw it was motion capture. It was really funny because my boyfriend and I, we had just started playing The Last of Us, and so we were going through that, and we were looking at the motion capture process, and I was like, wow, that must be so interesting to do motion capture. And I'm not even kidding, like a month later, I got this audition, and I was like, what the heck? I didn't even know how that was going to happen, and so I get called in, I do the audition. Obviously, we had no idea that it was Before the Storm because, you know, NDAs and everything. So we had like mock sides of what the junkyard scene was going to be, and I was initially auditioning for Rachel, and I didn't know I was going to only do motion capture at that time. I thought it was like the whole thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It wasn't until I think late callbacks that I found out what the game was, and then I started doing some research and I played through, and remarkable game. Seriously, it touched me. It's a very good game, well made.
No, I'm really glad to hear that, and I imagine that it'd be very heavy under NDAs and all the other agreements, because I was snooping through one of the actors. I can't remember which actor I was snooping through. I looked through their profile, and they couldn't say who it was. They're on the set before Storm, but they couldn't say it was that project. When you look in the background, you see a chair and it says Webb Pickersgill, and it's quite nice to see that now, because it was before the Storm.
Totally.
So, as you brought in for this motion capture side, and did they specifically tell you that you wouldn't be doing voiceover for it, you would be playing those characters?
I think it wasn't until, if I remember correctly, it wasn't until after callbacks, because and it makes sense because they want to see us do the motion, and I don't know, it's interesting because you have two halves, right? You have the voice actor, and then you have the actor doing the body. Mm-hmm. So they have to be really interconnected. So I think they just really wanted to see everybody's energy coming in. And the only way to do that is to do the full scene, obviously. So I was still stoked either way. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing motion capture. This is really neat.
No, I'm really glad to hear that. And speaking of that motion capture, as I said, Victoria, Steph, Samantha, Taylor, Max, those are all the characters that you did motion capture for. Am I missing any, or was that all of them?
I believe that's all of them. Yes, right, I might have done a couple of NPCs, but those are the main ones I did. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Who's your favorite out of those, and why?
I have to say there was something really special about the way Victoria walked. I think that was the most fun part about the process. Webb and I got to kind of figure out, what are these characters' energies like? I mean, because people have played, Life is Strange, the first game. Mm-hmm. And so to really just embody that and recreate that, but also put my own twist on it and the embodiment of the characters, it was so fun. But Victoria, I don't know if you specifically remember her gait, but it's pretty funny. I really enjoyed doing that.
Do you know, it's funny though, because we've had Victoria Chase's voice actor on here so far. So we've had Teresa come on, and I was watching about the interview, and she says as well that she loves how Victoria walks. She's just like,
oh, that's so good.
She's like, it's not in a bad way, but it's just the way she walks. I was like, oh my God, the sassiness of that. She's like, I love it.
So extra, yeah.
So I'm really glad to hear that. And with this as well, mocap was done in-house in Deck 9 Studio at Colorado. Was there anywhere else this mocap was done, or was it specifically at that location?
For me, it was all done in Colorado. Yeah, I don't know if they had anything else done in California or anything like that, but as far as I know, for my work, it was all done here in Colorado.
Okay, I thought I'd just check, because the verdict's a little bit out of if they've actually done a bit of recording somewhere else. But what was it like in the actual set of their mocap?
It was so cool because, you have the suits and everything, so there's so much left to the imagination, which I think we'll probably get into a little bit later, but especially for Farewell, when I was doing Max's motion capture, she has that scene where she's going through the attic. And it's just so funny because I had to keep setting these bars and these strings up because I had to be so aware of everything, because there were times my head would just go through the ceiling or my body would just run into an object, and they're like, all right, we need to make this more specific so Megan doesn't keep running into stuff.
That's really nice to hear. And
yeah, it was like an obstacle course.
No, of course. And you mentioned it before as well about Webb when we talked about him. Obviously, I know he was there. Was Chris Floyd there as well during these mocap sessions?
He did. He would come in. As far as I remember, it was mainly Webb, and some animators would come in and out, just kind of checking out the process and what scenes we were doing that day. But yeah, Chris Floyd did come in.
Okay, what was it like working with them, just generally from your experience?
Amazing. I seriously, they made me feel so welcome, and I was just starting out. I was pretty green, and they're so encouraging, so helpful. It was just the most laid back, welcoming, like nurturing kind of, I don't know. It was wonderful. That's like the best way I can describe it, but they were really wonderful to work with.
No, I'm really glad to hear that. You know, they do watch some of these interviews as well, just to give you an FYI.
Yeah, well, I love them, and they know that. So
no, of course, and they deserve their full praises as well from the actors. So I'm really glad that experience was lasting for you. And so we're talking about mocap. Like, how long was the average session? Like, what was the longest day you were on set, and like, what was it like just being there?
It kind of changed. Sometimes we'd have half days where it was only like a few hours. It's kind of, I'm trying to remember. I think the longest day we may have had was seriously maybe something like 8 hours. So there were never really, really long days. Yeah, I think that's about it. So it was very it was perfect, you know, it wasn't too long. And yeah, as far as I know, it was 8 hours. Sorry, I'm like trying to remember.
No, it's fine. And one thing I have to ask you, you're an 8 hour shoot. Would there be points where you wouldn't be on set? Like, say, if it's just a scene between Rhianna and like another actor, would there any points of that, or was it like you're always on set, or if you weren't eating lunch or something like that?
Well, Rhianna obviously being like the lead, she was in mostly everything. She was always working. Sometimes I would be kind of like in and out, like I'd have breaks in between, and but yeah, it was not super heavy for me, you know, which was cool. I got to kind of bounce and be different characters, and that was awesome.
That's really cool. And you know, as we talked about the motion capture suit, what was it like wearing one of those for the first time?
It's very form-fitting. At first, I think it was a little bit itchy, like I wasn't ready for it. But then you get kind of used to it. I think the hardest part is going to the bathroom in between shoots, just because it's like a full get-up. And you're like, oh crap, I need to go to the bathroom. Somebody help me. But it's very comfortable, which is kind of funny. But once you get used to it, of course, it's a little bit weird putting it on.
No, I've heard. Sorry, what?
It makes my hair really static. That's like one of the things I remember.
Which one's worse for things that you don't like about the motion capture suit? The fact that you have to go and pee in it, or the hair static part?
I think going to the bathroom, because I could always put my hair up if it was annoying me, and I just could kind of ignore it. And for the most part, we did have to, you know, have our hair up because we have that, you know, like sort of helmet thing on. And chin strap, all that stuff. So I had to yeah, I usually had my hair back. So going to the bathroom is probably the worst part.
Right. Okay. We're on the set of Before the Storm. Like, what was your favorite memory from there? Like, was there a specific moment, or like any funny moments that really stand out for you, looking back now?
I have to say, like, any day working with Rhianna was awesome. She's just hilarious. She's probably one of the wittiest people I've ever met. She always, I mean, everyone made it fun, but she's hilarious. Honestly, I can't even remember a specific moment, because most days something random would happen, or we'd all be, you know, just kind of giggling about something random that someone had said. It was always pretty fun.
Okay, no, I'm glad to hear that. We'll come on to Rhianna in a little bit, because I've got something to ask you about her. But sticking with the actual mocap, what was your favorite scene to shoot from mocap, and why?
Oh, that's hard. I have to say, I think it was really special being Max and Farewell, like recreating all of those scenes. That was really special. I think I loved the scenes. Well, I guess it's like all of Farewell, but you know, when they're outside, Chloe and Max, and they're, you know, talking in their pirate talk and just being silly and total goofballs. That was just really special. I mean, it was really fun to try and do a spin, even though I wasn't doing, you know, the voice or anything. It was really special to be a part of that, you know, recreating Max and doing those scenes, just because I know how touching Farewell was going to be when it was going to be released. It was a really special episode. No,
I'm really glad to hear that, and my audience loves Max, so they'll enjoy every moment of you saying that.
Yeah.
So, like, do you know when motion capture as well, did they hand you scripts, so you were actually like filming and safe, like you were normally on set, where you'd be like doing the dialogue with the other actors?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time we'd go as close to the sides as possible, just because obviously we needed the body to match, you know, what you were saying. So they wanted it to be as realistic as possible for when they did voiceover recording in LA. So yeah, typically we'd memorize a dialogue, or just the majority of like the meat of the lines, if that makes sense. So we could just really like be in the moment and be honest.
No, okay, that's really interesting. And we're talking about the actors. I said we'll come on to Rhianna in a little bit, but like, what was it like working with the other actors as well? That experience.
It's really funny because I've worked with a lot of these actors before, just because the Denver community is fairly small. I also worked with Dan Davidson, who did motion capture, and I'm trying to think. There was a few people. Oh, Danielle Vivrates, she did motion capture for Rachel. So it was fun, and I didn't really work with her a lot. Sometimes we were on set the same day, obviously filming different parts, but really fun. I've worked with Dan. I did an acting class with him for years, so we were really close, and so it was fun to be able to work on this set with him.
No, that sounds really interesting. You've actually answered my next question because I wanted to know who Rachel's mocap actor was, so thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
No, of course. I was looking online and I couldn't find it, and people were like, it's either these two, and I was like, well, I've got Megan here, so I can try and find out who it is. So I'm glad that you answered that. So excuse my layman speak here because I'm really bad for this, but were there any points where you had the dots on your face for mocap?
Actually, no, not for this, just because it was all body.
Right. Okay.
So I didn't have to do any of that.
Did they tell you from the beginning that it'd just be body motion capture?
Fairly early on, I learned, it was just going to be motion capture of just the body, no face or anything. Okay.
So let's delve out of the motion capture just a little bit. So what did you make of characters like Victoria and Steph specifically when you saw what they looked like and when Before Storm came out?
It was really funny. Just watching the playback, like seeing your motion capture come to life, through the animators. The animators are brilliant, obviously. So just seeing like how they took your motion and just made it super crispy, for lack of a better word, but it just looked really funny. Especially Victoria, I think that's why it was probably one of my favorite motion captures, just because it was so specific. And I enjoyed Steph too. Each of them, studying those characters, it was really fun to kind of bring them to life and find out the little mannerisms and the little motions that set them apart and made them really different. And I tried really hard to do that. And Webb held me accountable because sometimes on a long day where we were kind of jumping in between characters, he's like, let's do that again. That was a little bit Victoria-like. Because especially when we were doing Taylor and Victoria, they had similarities, but I still had to make them different, even though she ended up being cut, obviously. But yeah, it made it really fun to see it come to life.
No, that's really interesting. You mentioned Taylor there as well. Did they tell you that Taylor would get cut before this game came out, or?
I can't actually remember now. I'm not sure. I think it was definitely it was a last minute thing. I think I don't actually remember when I found out about that. Now that you mention it, but I mean I only did a little bit of it. Taylor, I was doing Max, Steph, and Victoria a lot, so they were definitely the focus for me.
No, of course. Okay. And, if I've worked this out as well, based on your age, and when Before Storm came out, you were about 17, 18 when this was getting done on mocap. Very young, very early into your career. What was it like turning up as a young actor on the set? Were you nervous at any point or
Oh, totally. Oh my gosh, I was so nervous for my audition. I'm pretty sure I even forgot my lines in the initial audition. I was like, ah! And I usually don't do that, but I think I was just so excited. I couldn't believe, especially after, not knowing much about video games, but understanding that I could be doing, motion capture. I was like, oh my gosh, this would be so cool. And, sometimes when you really focus in on that, your brain is I don't know, it over focuses and then you kind of screw yourself up. But it ended up working out because they hired me, which is awesome. Yeah, it was definitely, I was, stressed. It was probably one of the first major things to me, that I had done at that point. I didn't really have a lot of stuff under my belt. If I remember correctly, I think I'd only done a couple of short films before then, super independent projects. So to jump onto this set, I was like, oh my gosh, this is wild. So I was super excited.
No, that's really cool. And obviously, you have to admit, if you're honest as well, I know some actors are always like, yeah, I was nervous as hell when I came onto the set. So of course I would be. No, but it's really interesting to hear that. And, we're obviously talking about Before Storm, 3 episodes, and then also a bonus episode with Farewell, and you have Max. When did they tell you that you'd be doing motion capture for Max? Was that from the beginning, or was that later into actual mocap?
No, it was actually later into the I think we were just about to wrap like most of Before the Storm, and Webb just told me, hey, we decided we want you to come back and do Max. And I was like, I was very happy. I was so excited. So yeah, it was definitely a nice little treat towards the ending of Before the Storm.
I imagine so, and I've kind of stopped Rhianna from appearing in this conversation, but we're going to go on to Rhianna because I wanted to wait for this point because we're talking about Max and Chloe now. Farewell. You're specifically working with Rhianna on these motion capture scenes as Max. What was it like working with her? And you've obviously spoken highly of her, but specifically in terms of bringing Max and Chloe to life.
Oh my gosh, I mean this. She's so she's so funny. She's super witty, so I feel like she naturally embodies Chloe. And I'm kind of awkward. Honestly, I'm a Max character, I feel like, in my life. So it just makes me laugh because that dynamic, I feel like on and off the set played perfectly, and she just cracks me up. So, she definitely embodied Chloe, all of her best qualities. I was like, yes, Rhianna, you got this.
We're talking with Max here specifically, and I've spoken to Serena, who did the motion capture for Max in the first game. And when she worked with Donut specifically, who were the studio on the first game, they worked really hard with her in getting Max's mannerisms. And you kind of talked about, Victoria's the kind of the swaggy style that she has. Was there something similar with Max in Farewell, or was this because it was a younger Max that length didn't go with the character, where you wanted a shy, awkward style to her?
Yeah, that was actually something Webb and I kind of discovered and dove into. We wanted it to still be Max, but we wanted to really kind of explore that young, awkward version, where you're kind of, a preteen and you're kind of unsure of yourself and kind of insecure. And especially for Max, she's just kind of figuring everything out, and she's got this cute, quiet softness to her. So we really wanted to embody that, but also acknowledge how young she was in Farewell and where she might be at that point. So yeah, we did try and embody some of that awkwardness and that shyness.
No, I'm glad to hear that. And obviously, sticking with Max one more time, you knew that this was Life is Strange when you started to get involved with the project and figured things out. Did you do any personal digging into Max's backstory, her character, when you learned that you were doing Farewell?
Yeah, I definitely looked into I did my research, I played through the games, just wanted to get a really solid foundation understanding of who Max is and how she's been portrayed thus far and where she might be in the Farewell episode, prior to all of this stuff. So I think it was really special because obviously having that, the first game done, I was able to really watch that and see where she is. So I had something to work off of.
Did you finish all the first game or play through it or watch it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to have to ask you this question now because you said that. What was your decision on the end of the first game? Was it save Arcadia Bay or save Chloe? Word of warning, my audience is they care a lot about this question.
I think that's so hard. Seriously, that was the biggest dilemma. I think it's... I hesitate to comment on that because I think both could work. It's just so it's extreme, it's not a small decision.
What did you pick in your first attempt?
Oh my gosh. I'm scared. Guys, please don't hate me. I think personally the best decision Max could have made morally would be to save Arcadia Bay, but Chloe's also her best friend and has been there through everything. And I honestly, me as a human being, I don't think I could willingly sacrifice my best friend. So it's very complicated.
I can understand that because I had Emma Vicelli, the comic writer, on my show, and she was like, I had to walk around the garden at one point because it was just so stressful.
Oh my gosh, that whole build up to that point, I was like, what is happening? So much stress, and it was so sad. There were points where you just cry, you just sob playing it. You're like, this is heartbreaking. So yeah, don't hate me, guys, for saying that, but I think both are valid if you look into them. But I did choose to save the town at one point, and I think that was really, really hard because I was like, I don't know what the moral, what's the right decision? I don't know. Well, that's what makes the game so good.
you'll find very quickly that the right decision for a lot of people, including myself, is to save Chloe, and that's it. Well, choices are choices, aren't they? No,
Totally.
you know, you've played that game. I was just curious, have you played through Before the Storm as well?
Yeah, I have.
What did you think of it when you saw the overall picture, eventually sitting down and just getting time to play the game?
Really cool. I mean, obviously, I was able to work through it, so it was cool to see it come to life. You know, it gives you kind of a different perspective because you were there through the process. You'll like remember these scenes and these parts, but just to see like the full picture completed, it's really special. It's a cool feeling.
No, I'm really glad. Any favorite scenes that you can remember?
And Before the Storm?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely like the junkyard scene with Rachel and Chloe. I just think it's really like powerful. You know, it's a really nice bonding moment for them. And then also, I loved the farewell work. It was really fun.
No, I'm really glad to hear that. And actually, with the motion capture side as well, were you a bit disappointed that you didn't get to do the Tempest?
Oh my gosh, that would have been really cool. But you know, I had so much fun with what I had. But yeah, that would have been cool to do that too.
No, because I know Steph is the stage manager and she looks after the Tempest, but she's not directly involved in the Tempest. But that's for me one of my favorite scenes of all time.
Oh, that's a great scene. I know that's the hard thing about picking favorite scenes. There's like a lot of special moments throughout the game where you're like, this is good. This is special.
And we're going to move away from Life is Strange now. But actually, before we go on to some other things as well, you mentioned The Last of Us before. Did you play The Last of Us 2?
I haven't yet, actually.
You haven't?
Which is
okay.
Like a sin, which is not okay. To be fair, my boyfriend is the one who was really like, he played through it. I think he played through the second one. But I kind of just like followed along and kind of watched the playthroughs because I'm lame. But it's a really good game too.
What did you think of the first one when you played through it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's really like, I think it's brilliantly done. I mean, the acting and everything, it's just like, oh my gosh, it just hits you different, you know? It's a great story too.
No, I really liked the first one, especially the last scene. I love when Joel and Ellie are kind of like head-to-head confrontation. It's like, why did they not save me? And anyway, I really enjoyed that last part of the game, so I thought I'd ask you for your thoughts of it.
It's powerful.
So let's move away from all this anyway, and move away from Before Storm as well. Life is Strange. What's life been like post Before the Storm? Any favorite projects that you've worked on since then?
It's actually, I mean, in the COVID era, right now, I mean, this year's been fairly quiet. I've done a lot of independent projects, but I did actually wrap a really cool project that I'm not really allowed to say specific details about.
Of course.
Yay! So super ambiguous notice here. But yeah, I mean, it's just been a lot of independent work. I got to work on a CBS show called Interrogation, and was on a few episodes of that show, so that was really cool. But other than that, yeah, a lot of independent projects that I hope will be coming out soon, and then this other one that will hopefully come out sometime next year, and I'll actually be able to announce it.
Hopefully, and as well, he's mentioned with the COVID world as well. I know that Deck 9 are shooting in-house at the minute for mocap, but they can't actually do it in the studio that you're doing it because of COVID, so they've had to I think they're doing it on like a Webb seminar or something where they're shooting.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, which is like incredible. It's amazing that they're able to do that.
Yeah, I was reading an interview with Webb Pickersgill about it, and I was just like, thank God you weren't making Before Storm now, because then you wouldn't be able to be on set for it, which is more difficult.
I can't imagine. Like, I mean, just giving direction and like having, I assume like the actors probably, they have the, what happened in the interview? Yeah, they have it all like set up at their house or something.
Yeah, so that they're on a call and they all have their like mocap set stuff on, but they're doing it over so it's like you can't be on set for it. It's like you have to watch it all happen. So I was like, it's mad.
Incredible,
yeah. So actually, let's again move away from Before Storm. I'll put you back onto it. But you know, you've had that taste of the world with Before Storm in terms of mocap. Have you applied for anything else in mocap in gaming since then, or any other projects along those lines?
You know, it's funny. I actually haven't, and I don't really know how to navigate it because, I mean, Colorado has a bit of an incentive for, you know, the gaming industry, but I haven't had any other like motion capture auditions, you know, for other games or anything like that. So I'd definitely be interested to go into that. I think it's a really special process. It's just so unique.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
Yeah, it's unlike anything I've ever done. And I think it would be really cool to do more games in the future.
No, and I hope so as well. And you know, as I was doing that digging through your work profile, who you are, I thought you had a fascinating backstory in terms of like, you know, that you were working in Colorado, you got representation there. Then you moved to LA, you were around 18 at the time. You worked out there, you have representation in Colorado, California, New Mexico, Southeast region. You're so well connected. And like, what kind of experience do you give to like young actors? I imagine that some young actors are watching this and always want to work into it. Like, what's the best advice, sorry, to give them based on your experience?
Don't give up. Seriously, I think all of it is perseverance. Like, there are many times when you'll be like, what the heck am I doing? You'll feel like you're not making the connections, getting the auditions you want, but I swear if you just keep pushing, stuff will trickle through. And I mean, we all feel that, you know, and anything that's super competitive and creative based, you go through times where you're just doubting yourself. And my best advice is to just carry on, get a good circle around you of people who genuinely support you and want the best for you, and just manifest, you know, be excited about the future, you know, allow blessings to come in your life, and it'll happen.
No, very valuable advice. And before we go on to like the kind of the end of this show, I have like one more thing to ask you, because I only thought about it before we started this call. You work in commercials, and a lot of the other actors I've spoken to in this series have like talked about working in commercials. I know it's a good way for building portfolio, getting work. Is it easier to get commercial work, and compared to like a film?
It's funny you should say that, because in some ways I think it's harder just because it's so much more subjective. You know, for commercials, producers will just have like a specific look. Like, it could be something so small. And I mean, casting's kind of like that in general, but I think sometimes for films and TV, they're a little bit more open to like who they're seeing. But I think commercials are pretty like exclusive. Like, they have their sights set on like the image they have in their head of how to, you know, showcase this product or service. And I think they're very subjective. And they're great. I mean, they pay well, so makes it worth it. But I mean, it's like a short day. You know, you have like, actually, that's not always a short day, but you know, you don't have like that many lines or anything. So yeah, I mean, it's easy work, but I think it's actually more subjective sometimes than television.
All right, okay. I thought I thought it was gonna be like maybe because of like the process of filming, it might be easier to get that kind of work. But I learn something new every day. So thank you for clarifying that.
Absolutely.
And as I mentioned as well, we're kind of coming towards the end. So Life is Strange has a TV show in production. God only knows when it comes out as well, just to let you know that I have no idea when that's going to happen. But, you know, you would love to play a character in this, but you're not allowed to. So I'm going to put you in the role of casting director, and you played plenty of characters. So we're going to pick out Victoria specifically because of the sassiness, and obviously Max. Who would you cast in those roles if you had the chance, and why? You have unlimited budget.
This is so hard. What?
You have unlimited budget as well, by the way, so you can be as ambitious as you want with whichever actors.
Unlimited budget. Victoria would have to be Rachel McAdams. Just kidding, but I just loved her Mean Girls performance, so I'm biased. I don't know. I definitely bring in like a whole group of actors. I feel like I'm just trying to like cop out of this question because I feel like it's hard. I'm like, there's so many cool people you could bring in as a casting director. And I think that's why casting's so cool, you know, because you can have your ideas of like who might fit the role and you're like, all right, perform, you know, bring in a whole bunch of people. Max, on the other hand, I think that's hard. It's so funny because I like only imagine, I think it's because I've heard it so, like Hannah Tell's voice. Like I can't, she's so like unique and just Max. It's just like.
It's scary, isn't it? How that's
it is. It's weird. It's like, I feel like it's just not appropriate for anyone else to get the role.
Because I've spoken to Hannah twice, and she kicked off this series as well, episode 1. And I remember when she jumped back on the call, and this was 5 years after me and Hannah first spoke. And I just like, Hannah was like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, Hannah, it's freaking me out how much you sound like Max. I don't know why it's freaking me out, but you like sound, and it's just. And
she is. She's Max. And that's why I think it, you know, it's so special because it's just like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine like anyone else being Max. I know that's weird, but I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. I mean.
No, absolutely with Max. But yeah, I won't probe you anymore if you can't. You know,
okay.
But say that as well with the Mean Girls choice. That's a good one because Gabriella was on this show prior to you, and she did mocap for Victoria in the first game, along with Chloe. And she said as well, like one of her main inspirations was Mean Girls. So like, you can easily go down that road.
Totally.
Yeah, and we're coming to the end of the show, and I always let my guests take the, I don't know what I was going to say here, but I'll let the guests take the final say on the show. So I'll let you send a message to the community. The floor is yours, Megan.
Okay, cool. Well, I just want to say, like, the Life is Strange community is absolutely amazing. You guys are so supportive and so just welcoming and loving. I mean, the amount of you that have, like, personally reached out to me and just, said thank you for your work on Before the Storm. I'm just doing motion capture. I don't really think too much on what I've done, but it's really special. Like, the amount of support and love for this game and the community. Love you guys. I think everyone just loves you guys so much. You guys are so special, and I am so privileged to be a part of this community. And yeah, that's what I have to say. Life is Strange,
thank you so much for a wonderful message, and it really does end this show on a really nice note. Guys, I hope you enjoyed watching the episode. If you did, please like, subscribe, comment. It really does help the channel continue to grow. Megan, thank you so much for coming on, sharing fascinating insight into the Before the Storm mocap. Rhianna, I hope you're watching as well. Sorry,
yes, I hope she'll tell you that she ate carrot sticks. She'll be able to confirm.
I hope so as well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. We'll have more guests coming soon. Stay tuned. Plenty more Life is Strange content to come. Take care, guys. See you later.